Our next guest gave $20,000 towards that effort. It was accompanied by this statement, which reads in part, "I support Julian, whom I see as a pioneer of free speech, transparent government, and the digital revolution in journalism. His commitment to exposing the follies of government and business offers the greater society a chance to protect itself from these follies. Some aren't just follies, some are crimes." Let's bring in, as promised, Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
You also offered the use of your website for Assange or your servers or anything else you can do to keep WikiLeaks alive. What's the premise?
The premise is that we really owe a debt to Mr. Assange and to WikiLeaks for turning on a big spotlight on those people who brought about, first of all, this war that we've been in for the better part of this decade. These people concocted lies, and they committed crimes in order to send our young men and women off to war. And it has cost us not only the lives of our own people, but the lives of literally now tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghan citizens. And I just think that if in a free and open society, if we aren't able to find out the truth, mistakes like this get repeated over and over and over again. I mean, I was thinking yesterday when I sent the bail money over to London, what if we'd had a WikiLeaks in August of 1964 when we were told that the North Vietnamese fired on a U.S. ship, which in fact was a lie. It was a concocted lie at the Pentagon. And we didn't find out about that until Daniel Ellsberg released the Pentagon Papers some 6-7 years later. But what if there had been a WikiLeaks? What if someone could have got that information out and told the American people at the beginning of the Vietnam War, my fellow Americans, you're being lied to, this was all made up? How many lives could have been saved? And you could go down so many other examples, whether it's, imagine the Dick Cheney memos back and forth as he was pressuring the CIA at the beginning, just before this last Iraq war started. What if those memos had been released in 2002 or 2003 so the American people could see he was trying to get the CIA to gin up the evidence and sort of fudge the facts so they could make their case for war? What if we'd had access to that? So this is, to me, I just think an instrument like WikiLeaks is vital for a free and open society to exist because, and frankly, I think this is something that Thomas Jefferson or Ben Franklin would have, if they could have invented this, if there had been an internet back then. They saw the importance of making sure that the corrupt people in power, and they knew that power corrupted, it was necessary to have a very large light on them. And that's what WikiLeaks does. And for me, I think anybody who supports WikiLeaks, they're committing an act of patriotism because it guarantees, I hope, that we have a better shot next time the bad guys try to pull one off on us.
Does it matter that he hasn't had access to and thus hasn't released things like Dick Cheney memos or some equivalent to the Gulf of Tonkin data from 1964? The specifics? I mean, one of the arguments against this is that it's not journalism because it's just a massive, essentially, download of secret or hidden information, that it's not vetted in some way, not journalistically gone through in some way or sifted. Does that matter at all?
It has been. First of all, the news agencies, from the New York Times to the Guardian to the papers in Europe, they've spent a lot of time vetting it, going through it. I think they're very happy to have this access to it. Remember, right now we've been focusing on these State Department cables for the most part, which have been, if anything, embarrassing. And even as our Defense Secretary, Mr. Gates, said, this is not putting anyone's life really in jeopardy. Let's not make such a big deal about this. But the information that was released earlier this year about the Iraq War and then the next drop on the war in Afghanistan, there were some very serious items in there, and especially it was heartbreaking to read those reports from our soldiers during the first WikiLeaks drop back earlier this year, where if you read those things, what our own soldiers wrote up in their reports, what they were forced to do, the civilians that were killed, that they killed, and how sickened they were by this, because they signed up for the U.S. Army to defend the United States of America, not to go over and participate in this. It was, I think, incredible information to have. The video that was released that showed the execution by the helicopter of the Reuters reporters. I think all of that stuff has been very important. And remember, of the 250,000 documents, the cables that they say that they're going to be releasing, they've only released, I think, 1,000 or 2,000 of them. So there's a lot more to come from this organization, and I think it's a good thing. And I say to the people who, I've had people say to me, I don't know if, this is not good. You have to have some secrets, and I can understand that. Diplomacy, all that's necessary to, you can't just have everything on the front page of the paper. But I would say that because our government behaved so badly in invading a country that was not a threat to us, that this is the result. This is what you're going to have to put up with. The lights in the room have been turned on, and now we're going to see everything from this point on. And maybe it's not right that we see everything, but I think I'd rather that than the alternative. And remember, it's not the leaks that are killing anyone. It's the secrets that have killed people. The secrets, here's a good example. I asked your producer, I don't know if you guys have the famous photo of Mr. Bush when in August of 2001, 1 month before 9/11.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, yeah. Okay, now, he's being handed a secret memo. And the memo just happens to say, bin Laden determined to attack inside United States. And in the memo, it talks about how he plans on hijacking airplanes. Now, this is 1 month before 9/11. Mr. Bush took a look at that, as you can see, and then he went fishing for 4 weeks. Now, what if Wikileaks had existed then, and some person in the U.S. government who saw that the president wasn't going to deal with this threat put that out there and said, bin Laden and Al-Qaeda are planning to do something with airplanes and something very soon? There's a wonderful essay that was written by the woman, Colleen Rowley. She was Times Person of the Year for being a whistleblower, 24-year veteran of the FBI. And she says that, I've got the link on my site, I think it was in the LA Times just this past week or so. And she says, I think possibly had WikiLeaks existed in 2001, there would have been a chance that 9/11 wouldn't have happened. Because if that had been out there to the American people, if that had been out there to, say, even her office, her FBI, her field office, had she even known to look for these, had they even taken the call, if they'd taken the call from the flight school, where the guy, remember the guy calls up and he says, hey, I got these guys here, and they don't want to know how to take off or land a plane. Well, that's a top secret. Well, these things shouldn't be secret. This affects American lives. We should know about these things, and I think these leaks will save lives. These secrets that are kept, whether it's Gulf of Tonkin, whether it's 9/11, whether it's how we got into the Iraq War, those secrets, they kill people, they take lives, and that's why I'm a huge supporter of what WikiLeaks is doing.
All right, one complicating issue here. Address the charges against Assange in Sweden. Are they a ruse? Are they a front for something else? And even if they are indeed something nefarious against him, you are still, in essence, participating in bailing out a man who has been charged with criminal sexual charges or will be charged under these circumstances. Address that.
That's the thing. He hasn't been charged. They've brought no criminal charges against him. They want to talk to him about this whole thing. Stinks to the high heavens. I got to tell you. I mean, I wasn't born yesterday, but I've seen this enough times where governments and corporations go after individuals. Geez, I think I was just on your show a couple weeks ago talking about this with my film in the healthcare industry. They go after people with this kind of lie and smear. Daniel Ellsberg told you about it last week on how they went after him. We've seen this before. Now, to his guilt or innocence of this, I mean, what they say he did, and the lawyer said this today in court in London, that what they say he did, and the charge is condom broke during consensual sex. That is not a crime in Britain, and so they're making the point: how can we extradite him over this? This is all a bunch of hooey, as far as I'm concerned, and the man at least has a right to be out of prison while awaiting the hearing. And I believe and this is why I participated in it. This is why I put up a chunk of the bail money, and you know, and I'm proud to do it because I think this man and what he's doing and what his group is doing is going to save lives.
Filmmaker Michael Moore, who will join Rachel Maddow next week for her leadership series at the 92nd Street Y. Great thanks, and I'm sorry we didn't get to discuss the trade of your Detroit Tigers of Alfred.